Regression.
Hello and welcome to the Voices of the Vic podcast. My name is Mike. I am your host tonight and I am joined by Joe and Cam. And we're here to talk about not a loss, but in certain aspects it almost feels a little bit like a loss because the performance warranted a result that was perhaps better than worse than what we got. And things have just not been very rosy recently. So we're going to touch upon a few things tonight and mainly talk about performances of certain players, etc., etc. So, yes, as I say, I'm joined by Joe and Cam. So let's come to you first, Joe. How's things with yourself, mate, other than Watford? Is everything all right?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, mate. Very well. Had a nice chilled weekend with the girls. Watched what I could of the game yesterday, albeit wasn't all of it. From what I saw, very frustrating. Again, which has pretty much summed up, I'd say, this last 7 days as a Watford fan. I think the last three performances have been very below par to what we've been used to. Obviously, we'll talk more about the reasons and things as to why. But yeah, I've got to say, I don't know if anyone else tuning in has watched the Super Sunday game today, but great advert for the neutrals of the Premier League football. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Honestly, when Arsenal equalised, I genuinely didn't think United would go on and win. But what a strike from Cunha to win the game for United. Really, really enjoyable. Hopefully, Georgie can learn a thing or two off that because there's so many times when he gets into those areas that he should just pull a trigger. And in fairness to him, he did actually, if I remember rightly, at Millwall at home last week, he did get into, was it Millwall? It might have been Portsmouth. I can't remember where he got into that position. And a shot like that from distance deflected just wide. So it just shows you have a go and you might score. But yeah, I'm all good though other than that. How about yourself, mate? It's nice to have you back in the hosting seat tonight.
Yeah, it feels weird. It feels really weird. I was so worried when the intro music was on. I was like, right, Voices of the Vic. Welcome to Voices of the Vic. Voices of the Vic. I really didn't want to say the other podcast, so I've done well. I almost called one of you Ben because I've got a Ben on the other podcast to do, and I almost called you Jake because I've got a Jake on the other podcast and two J's, etc. So yeah, gone better than I thought so far, but let's see what happens come the end of the show. But yeah, I'm all good. Like you said, if only things with Watford were a little bit better. Give it time. There'll be a comment in there saying, why is everyone moaning? We've only lost 2 in 16. We'll get on to stuff like that. But the performances of late just really have not been good. And you can't help but feel deflated, angered, frustrated. The fact that the league is so poor and we are where we are, we've picked up however many points we've picked up in the last, 5 games, and we're still only a point outside the playoffs. It almost makes you wonder, like, what if we carried on that run? Or what if we didn't play with the handbrake on? Where could we be? We could be firmly planted in the playoffs and looking up rather than looking down. So, yeah, but like you say, Super Sunday was good, and it gives me that little bit of hope that maybe next season we can go to Arsenal and put in a good performance. So, yeah, hey, see what I did there? Gareth is joined tonight. Mike loves to moan with an eye roll emoji. And we've had an early comment from Philip Crouch. He can't wait for Cam to say he's sorry for having to go. So on that note, actually, Cam, how's things with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's time for Javi to go, I reckon. No, I'm just having a stellar weekend, I think. Went down to Dulwich yesterday morning for parkrun, got my PB. Lovely place. If you haven't been to Dulwich, go. It's fantastic. Not long got back from watching the Roy Keane film, which I'd recommend to anyone. I recommend to anyone except Mick McCarthy. I cannot imagine he signed up to to be a part of that, because the way they represent him in it, he is just like, there's no way he'd be happy with that. So yeah, if you're not Mick McCarthy, go and watch it. But yeah, still a weekend other than Watford, of course, and it's, you know, just becoming the theme again. Really, we thought we might have turned a corner, and suddenly Watford is the bane of everyone's weekend again. So yeah, I'm other than the disappointing result, and I'm glad I didn't go. Well done to everyone who did, but you won't be catching me going to Blackburn again anytime soon. Yeah,
well, they'll be in League One next season. We'll be 2 leagues apart, won't we? So is that what you mean, or?
No, look, I've had my fun there. We went to that fantastic 2-1 win a couple of seasons ago. What did we do at Blackburn last season?
We lost
2-1.
Was it 2-1?
Manny Pollock scored. We took the lead, I think, and Tyrese Dolan scored the winner for them.
Oh.
What stage of the season was that?
Last away game of the season.
Was it? Oh, okay. Yeah. Nothing game then. Yeah. I've got no need to go back to Blackburn, especially seeing us play the way we are. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't, waste 70-80 quid going up there, and I had a splendid weekend staying at home.
To be honest, you're good with stuff like this, Joe, in terms of recalling results. Other than obviously a couple of seasons ago, ironically under Ishmael, and the only other time I can really remember us doing much at Blackburn was probably the season before the Ishmael win. The last time I can remember was that lockdown game, which was, again, another scrappy game. I think João Pedro, did we win 1-0? João Pedro chipped their keeper.
Something like that. No, that was 3-2, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
Yeah. No, the away one was 3-2. I'm pretty sure. I remember Harvey Elliott had the game of his life for Blackburn. I mean, probably not the game of his life now, since what he's gone to do, but he was quality. I think they scored a couple goals. You might want to look that up, but I'm pretty sure we won 3-2.
Showing my age here, I remember a game in, I think it was 2001. We played on a Tuesday night there, and we beat them 4-3. Tommy Mooney, I think, got a brace. That was an unbelievable night at Blackburn. But yeah, we don't tend to do too well there. I remember, I don't know if you went, Mike, but there was that season under Zola. We lost 1-0 there, and there was that geezer that we got signed as left back. I can't remember his name for the life of me now, but it was the only game he played, I think, under Zola, and then we never played him again. I can't remember. I'm sure his surname began with F.
Yeah, it's Jean-Alain Fanchon.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I'm sure that was the only game he ever played for us. In the end, it was terrible. It was a terrible day for him and us.
Yeah, I went after Rob Edwards when I think we lost 2-0 that game. That was the moment it just became apparent that we weren't going to go anywhere that season. We were just terrible. It was Ngakia's long-awaited first game of the season after an injury, and then he went and got injured again, which is typical. That was just dreadful game of football. Nice day out.
As you lads have been talking, we've obviously had a few comments. Gareth said 3-2. Pedro Sar and Sema. It was 3-2, Cam. I've just got the head-to-heads up here on a flash score. And Joe mentioned that one under Zola, which we lost 1-0. I'm just looking at some other away games there. 2014, we drew 2-2. Well, sorry, the season we went up, we drew 2-2. And if you remember, Joe, Tozer scored free kick. Yeah, but the keeper had an absolute stinker on it. I think it was Luke Sterling goal. Yeah, it was Luke Sterling goal, and he had an absolute stinker.
Yeah, it was that was a game we should have won, and we didn't.
Yeah, our record against Blackburn over the recent years hasn't been great. But last time we beat them was the 1-0 in 2024. Sorry, it was last season at home. Kayembe scored the penalty.
Yeah.
And I think we should have given a penalty away as well. I think Porteous, was it a handball from Porteous?
That's a blast from the past. I forgot about him.
Yeah, blimey. That was a good penalty, actually. That was when Edu was good at penalties.
Yeah. Well, let's fast forward to yesterday, because it was a 1-1 draw. Now, we obviously have been used to Javi sort of sticking with the same team. Then you worry that players are going to tire, and you worry, are people fit? We obviously saw a Banquer get injured and have to come off on Wednesday night against Portsmouth. We saw Pollock withdrawn at half-time because he felt a niggle. We saw Chuck brought off, which was later told a tactical issue. Although what that tactical issue was, I do not know, but hey-ho. So it was really like, right, well, yeah. It was really a case of, right, so how are we going to line up then? Marmer, of course, went off and he looked in absolute agony. He looked distraught. You know, he was almost, and he might well have been, he covered his face with his shirt, could well have been in tears as well. So it was like, right, who's going to play where? We know who we'd like to slot into those places, but we know that it's not that simple here at Watford. So there were 4 changes to the team on Wednesday. I'll run through the team now. So it was Selvik in goal, and then it was Ngakia, Caben, Abankwah, and Bola. Ngakia was captain, by the way. Then it was Marma, Kiprianu, Kayembe, Vata, Doumbia, and Kerengard. I've read that out in the weirdest order ever. I don't know why. I think my brain is at function to 4-4-2. I was reading it out as a 4-4-2. And then I realised that we didn't actually play in a 4-4-2. So apologies, I've read that out horrendously. But that was the lineup. Now, Joe, I'll come to you first. We obviously expected changes. It was good to see a Banquer back in for me personally. I'll talk in a little bit about what I liked about that and what I didn't. But what did you make of that team when it was announced?
Well, like you say, I mean, from the injuries that we saw on Wednesday night, it was a bit of a shock, to be honest, because there's no way, really, in my opinion, that a guy that's been out for 3 months, regardless of how ready you think he is, should be starting a game. And obviously, I don't know. I've not seen a tweet. I've not seen a comment. I just saw what was put in our chat yesterday where Katie had said that Javi said that Vata was only going to get 45 minutes. In which case, I'm kind of thinking, well, if that's the case, then he's not fit enough. And if that's the case, also, then you'd put him on the bench. And if, you know, we've got, if I always say this, you always start your fittest and your best players to start a game. If you're 2-3-0 up and you're coasting with 20 minutes to go and you want to bring people on, bring them on, get them some minutes, because you know it's not going to be a sort of hard game, as I'd say, is like tackles flying in. You'd probably get them to give them that bit of fitness. To get ready for more minutes as the weeks go on. You don't start a player that's had an injury as severe as what he has. Obviously, as we're told, it's a new injury that he picked up yesterday. But as we know, as footballers, once you get a bad injury, you're more prone to picking up new injuries, which is what he has done now here. Obviously, we don't know the severity of it. He could be back for all we know next Saturday, and it could have just been that he needed to come off, as we've seen with, as you said, my mama was off and he was in tears. It was actually quite strange because I didn't know that his shirt was definitely over his face because you couldn't properly tell from where we were, but it looked like it. And obviously, you've just confirmed. So obviously, his injury was potentially bad, and if it's that bad, he couldn't walk. He was obviously assisted coming off and being carried. That says to me that, you know, regardless of whether you think he's going to be all right for the weekend, he's probably not going to be 100% fit. In which case, you know, as we've said from the start of this season, one thing we're blessed with this season is wingers and people that can play out wide. We've got the players. So if you've got 2 people there that you don't think are 100% fit, I don't care whether you feel like you can trust them or not, so that their injuries don't become more severe or they pick up new ones like we've seen yesterday. You start with Iran, Kunda and Bar from the start. That was what I expected yesterday from the off. And then, like I say, if you thought they were okay to maybe take part for last 15, 20 minutes, fine. But you start with your fittest players. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why, we're not seeing Bar at all. Again, another manager has come in and another manager is overlooking Quadro Bar. It says to me, potentially, is there a problem there with the player as opposed to the managers that we've got coming in? I don't know. Like, I find it odd that we've got someone else now that's come through the door and someone else that doesn't want to start him and doesn't even want to bring him off the bench either. We saw on Wednesday night, I don't know how true it is because I haven't seen the video or whatever, but I heard that he stormed down the tunnel on Wednesday night because he didn't get on. And for whatever reason, this guy, Iran Kunda, who was meant to be a wonder kid, we're not really seeing him much either. So, I just find the whole situation baffling, and it's really quite worrying that we've got we've got a manager that we all wanted. Well, not we all wanted as such, but a manager we were all happy about coming in. However, he's doing things that we're not liking, and he's kind of playing his way at the moment to the sack, because if results don't pick up, I get we're not losing. You said 2 defeats in 16, but we're not winning either. We've drawn a lot of games in that. We're drawing a lot of games 1-1. We're not seeing off teams. And the more that goes on, the more we slip off behind the teams in the playoffs. And we know what the Pozos are like. They want to get in the playoffs. They want promotion. If we're not in and around, then you could see them, I don't know, potentially. If I told you that run, didn't I, in Feb, Mike? If that doesn't go well for him, if it's bad results, they could pull the trigger and we get a new manager in for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely spot on. And this is why, there's so many questions around the team selection at the moment and why certain players aren't getting put in and whatnot. Now, Cam, obviously Joe's touched upon, the attacking side alone there, and feel free to jump in on what he said. But in terms of the centre-backs even, Abankwah, I don't mind. I really don't. I like him. I think he's a solid player. But Caben, I was holding this comment back. So Gareth said, do any of you rate Caben? Now, it's quite a resounding no from me, and I'm sure everyone else. What on earth has happened to him? Because I remember when he first come in, and we were almost a little bit annoyed we weren't seeing enough of him. And now, any time he's near the starting 11, he just puts the absolute frighteners in you. And just the whole situation with foremost Mendy, there wasn't a recognised centre-back on the bench. People would argue, okay, Cipriano can slot in there and then we've got midfielders. But that in terms of the defence in that, Pollock's not available for I don't know how long he's going to be out or anything like that. What did you make of that yesterday?
I mean, I was pleasantly surprised to see that Abankwah was fit enough to play. And, other than the moments of madness leading up to the corner that we conceded, I thought he had a decent game again. But yeah, that was really poor to give that corner away, the sliced clearance. It's something that he has. He has those moments, those lapses of concentration where he just sort of, allows the team to get onto us a little bit more. That's a big flaw in his game. With Caben, he's in a very rough patch at the moment. I didn't think he was that bad yesterday. I thought he had one of his better games, mainly because it was a quiet game. That means, if Caben's having a quiet game, it's probably better than him having a game where he's being spoken about. But I think back to start of the season and back end of last season, Kevin Caben was an unbelievable centre-back. He was quick. He didn't let anyone pass him. He dealt with every aerial ball. And he did what he needed to with the ball at his feet. And I think back to, even Paolo Pezzolano's last games in charge, Caben was he was still a good player then. But it was just this run where he got start after start after start, and he was just playing worse and worse every week, and Javi would not drop him. And I think that's a thing with Javi, that he is afraid to drop players, and he will let them play themselves out of confidence, out of form, until they've just got nothing left in them. And that's what's happened to Caben. When he's confident, he's a good player. He's not, he's been a calamity lately, but he is not a bad footballer. He's just severely lacking in confidence, and we can all see that. And I think he's been poorly managed, to be honest. But I hope he gets, he builds on the Blackburn game. He gets some time in the team, and hopefully we can start seeing the player that he was, because there's a partnership there with Abanka and Caben that could. I mean, we've seen before in glimpses that it could be a really good partnership. So yeah, it's frustrating. We should probably sign another centre back if Pollock's out for a while, but I don't believe that you can say you can't win games of football with those two at centre back, because you absolutely can. It's not this massive crisis that we're in that people are making it out to be. Blackburn would kill to have those two at centre back for them. If you offered me to swap round with most of the teams in this league, I wouldn't, to be honest with you. So we're not in a crisis, absolutely not. And I don't think there's anything I can offer on the Foremost Mendy situation. The club are adamant that he can play a part. Javi is adamant that he can't. And that's all there is to it, really. He's not going to go back to whatever French club we got him from, because we're not going to pay the termination fee, and they're not going to miss out on the loan fee from us. So he's staying here. And you know what? I just hope he gets a chance one day, especially if it means Cipriano can stay in midfield. If we get down to that situation, then, Javi needs to sort of get over this and at the very least give the guy a chance.
I think, can I just say, I think the most concerning part about that whole situation with Foremost Mendy is the fact that, Adam Drury posted yesterday before the game, is the reason why he's not being included is because he prefers Hector Cipriano and James Morris. And in that whole thing, which I find complete and utterly worrying, is Watford have got a deal in place for James Morris to go to Orient, providing we get a replacement. But Javi's saying that he prefers a player that is on his halfway out the door to play in Foremost Mendy. And I just think, what have you got against the geezer? We've never, apart from the one game he was played out of position, we've never seen him play in his rightful position. So how can you actually comment and say that you prefer other people? It baffles me.
Haven't comments been made as well by the hierarchy at the club saying he's one of the best trainers?
He was the number one target for the summer. We've all.
I don't believe that was the case though, because we got rejected by some other centre back a few days before we signed him. Definitely not the number one. But yeah, Barami said that a few weeks ago. He said he's in his best period of the season, training wise, and he's happy and he's ready to play for us. So yeah, it's really baffling.
I think. Going back to obviously what you've just said, Joe, about how Javi's sort of said he maybe prefers James Morris. That might be him sort of giving a bit of a nudge and a wink to the board to be like, right, I prefer a player who's actually on the way out, so get me some bloody bodies in. And it's like there was a screenshot shared in one of the group chats we're in yesterday, Cam, where he basically in a roundabout way said that he just doesn't fancy Petrie, because I think he says we've got no other option at right back other than to play Ngakia. And it's like, you absolutely have. You've got Petrie.
You're just not playing him.
Yeah, he just doesn't fancy him. So, very frustrating. But with all that said, the first 25 minutes yesterday, Cam, I personally thought they were a real breath of fresh air. I was in that chair behind me. I was slumped back in that, and I thought, hang on a minute, this is decent. Like, we were really playing some good stuff and knocking it about well, and we were using Kerem Guard how we should, and not just lumping it up to him to win headers against 7-foot-tall defenders and big bruisers of centre-backs. And he was getting involved, and the link-up play was good. Marma, and I noticed Gareth in here said that Marma doesn't track back. Marma was tracking back. He was getting stuck in. He wasn't doing too much. We won about what felt like 20 corners in the first 5 minutes. Like, it was really good stuff.
And they all hit the first man.
Yeah, well, yeah. The less said about that, the better. Let's just think about winning the corners in the first place. But, you know, we were. It was almost like a far cry from the Watford performances we've seen of late, and it was like, right, this is what we want to see from Watford, and we got the goal. Your favourite player, Edo KMB, popped up with the goal. I mean, look, he's the best ball striker at the club, and that's probably done him a bit of confidence. But what did you make of that first 25 minutes? Because, like I say, that's what we've been screaming out for. That is what we have wanted. That is what you expect with a team of this talent, when you can change it around and bring a bit of freshness in. That's what you want. But it's just the ability to then keep it up for the rest of the match. But, yeah, first 25, absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and that's, you know, what we should be seeing really from this team, especially against such a poor side. We have the players to play that way, and you're right to point out Kierango, because, you know, he's central to how we could be playing. You see the difference against Millwall and who was it, Portsmouth, lumping the ball up to him. He can't do anything. He doesn't win headers. He's not that kind of striker. Play the ball to his feet, and, you know, he's linking up with the wingers. He's got a good partnership with Dumbia. He's playing through balls in behind. He played really well while we were playing like that. And, yeah, I hope that means people sort of lay off him a little bit, because after the last 2 games, seeing him hung out to dry in that system, everyone has been saying this guy's the worst striker we've ever seen. Rajovic was better than him, so on and so on. And it's just ridiculous to me, because a few games before that, he was the second coming. He was the best striker in the world then. And, you know, a few games of Javi Gracia's hoofball, and he's no better than Rajovic anymore. It's strange, but not surprising, by the way, that our fans would behave like that. Yeah, so it's how we should be playing. I think we were let down by the wingers. They didn't look sharp at all. You know, you mentioned that Marma picked up that knock the previous game, and he's not been playing well lately either. I think he needs some time on the bench. And Vata just could not pick a pass to save his life. And again, that links to the lack of sharpness. He's not played for a long time. You can expect that. But I think if those two were a little bit more on it, we probably would have got a few goals up before we gave them the chance to equalise.
Well, this is it. 25 minutes on the clock, we go 1-0 up, and you think, right, this is brilliant, let's build on it. You've just about had time to sit down after celebrating. 26 minutes on the clock, corner comes in. Miller, I think it was, for them, scored, even though the cameraman who was employed to do that game, for whatever reason, he thought it was Cantwell, because that's all he was showing when the goal was scored. Miller peeled away from his man at the front post. To be honest, when I saw the goal back, I don't think he was trying to score. I think he was just trying to get a nick on it, to put it in the box, to make it more of a dangerous game, more of a dangerous opportunity. And it took me a while to realise it had gone in. And when I saw it had gone in, look, you mentioned about how our fans can overreact at times. Now, I have seen shouts on the Facebook groups to say that Selvik is no better keeper than Daniel Bachmann, which, may I add, is quite ridiculous. Quite frankly, I cannot believe I'm reading some of this. He's twice the player Bachmann is. Even if he had his arm chopped off tomorrow, he'd still be better than Bachmann is. But, like, I'll give you one example, and look, people might say, yeah, but look at the goal, and that's a fair point. There was a situation where the ball had come in, I think it was either in the first half or the second half, and this is a really simple example, by the way, and he come out to claim it and he caught it. Batman wouldn't do that. He'd stay on his line and they'd win the header and then they'd score or they'd put it on target and we'd be under threat. So, you know, I'm not agreeing with those people that say Batman, is he any better than Batman? But he dropped a bit of a stinker there with that goal, didn't he, Cam? And it's not the first time this season. No.
I think the Millwall first goal is still fresh in people's mind as well. He should have probably done better for that. But how many championship goalkeepers make zero mistakes? How many Premier League goalkeepers make zero mistakes? I mean, even, you know, David Raya for Arsenal, whoever City have got in goal these days, Donnarumma, they all make mistakes. Selvic's no different. You know, he's a top championship keeper, but he's going to make mistakes, especially with, you know, not the most secure system in front of him. I think he wins us way more points than he loses us, and he more than made up for the goal as well with that save he made quite late on. But just also his all-round game, you know, with the ball at his feet and when they're putting crosses in, just how he commands his area. I think people forget that we didn't have any of that when we had Bachmann in goal. It was just a complete calamity when Bachmann was there. And with Selvik, you've got that bit of security, that bit of composure, and that bit of confidence as well. Because no matter how many mistakes he's making, it doesn't seem to knock his confidence. He's still, you know, running out to sweep the ball. He's still claiming crosses. He's a great keeper, and it was the same. You know, Baxter played a few games. Our fans are like, "Oh, Baxter's way better than Selvik," and yeah, it's really strange. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it is very strange, and you know, he's going to want to bounce back as much as he can. He'll have been disappointed that he conceded that goal yesterday. It's World Cup year. Norway have qualified, I assume, because they've got Haaland. Is this where one of you awkwardly tell me that Norway haven't qualified?
No, I think they have.
Yeah, but he's going to want to go to the World Cup, so he's going to want to put in the best performances he can. And, you know, we've had a couple of comments in here. Selvik's much better than Bachmann. I just thought I'd bring it up because I have seen comments on Enjoy the Game Facebook group. I mean, that can be a laugh and you pull your hair out at the same time in that Facebook group at times. But I just couldn't believe
that our best players just get bashed constantly, and you know, players like Kayembe and Ngakia get all the praise. I get there's different standards, but I don't know why we have to do this. I remember, you know, João Pedro has been the victim of it sometimes. Asprilla was the victim of it. Saar kind of understandably sometimes, but like Chakvetadze has been a big victim of it last season, especially. And,
we'll talk about him in a bit.
Well, yeah. And now, like, you know, you saw people saying we're not going to miss Loser, because there was that whole debacle, which we might want to touch on as well, with Loser before the game. But people saying we're not going to miss him, and, you know, he's a detriment to us and he's not fit to be captain or whatever. I don't understand these people. I think they just exist to piss me off, to be honest.
It's questionable at the best of time. I mean, Joe, talking just sort of finishing on Selvik there. What have you made of him this season? Obviously, as Cam's pointed out, and as Gareth pointed out in the comments, you know, he's made some brilliant saves for us of late, but he has got the odd mistake in him. But as Cam said, who hasn't?
Yeah, I mean, you are right that you couldn't go for any of the top 5 keepers in the world and go, you don't make mistakes, you've never made a mistake, because they do. You know, Donnarumma, I think even last week, I remember for some reason he was trying to be really clever with his feet with a pass across the box, and it nearly ended up being I think he was either closed down or nearly let it go under his feet. So, you know, keepers do make these mistakes. I'm one of these people. I sit next to my friend who I go with, Matt. He's an old keeper himself, so, you know, he's hypercritical sometimes. but he knows the games and the positions these keepers should be in. And the first that one for me. Look, Cam mentioned it against Millwall last week. His positioning. I mean, it looked bad live, but when you watch it back on the telly, it looks even worse. Like, it was just horrific. Like, what are you doing? Like, you've made the decision that you want to come, but then you stopped. You've frozen. Why have you frozen? You'd made that decision to come and punch the ball, but then you bottled it. He then wasn't really set. The ball obviously was then. 3 of our players tried to close it down. Made the view, the eyesight for him. Not very clear, so obviously, I can't really blame him in that sense. But he should have just come and either tried to gather the ball or punch it. Obviously, I think back Norwich, he cost us the game in the cup when he tried to catch the ball, didn't he? Went through his hands. I mean, look, I can probably there's probably 4. I'm pretty sure there's about 3 or 4 goals where I've moaned at him where he probably should be doing better.
Bristol City at home.
Even Millwall at home last season, I think, actually, as well, when we drew the game. In fact, I don't even think we drew the game. I think we lost. And there was a header that was, I think it was a header that was a loop-in header that he didn't come for. He was all like set wrong for and stuff. I mean, there are things, like Gareth said, there's how many times has he saved us? He has saved us a lot of times. I can't disagree with that. But his decision-making at times does need to be better. But on the whole, he is a much, much better keeper than Daniel Batman. That has to be said. He's much calmer. He doesn't. He's not as hot-headed, and he doesn't come running out of his box and shout at referees to get red carded. So, he's
or he doesn't fly kick anyone like he did at Huddersfield at home as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or he doesn't turn into a referee and decide that the pitch is unplayable before you go and lose 3-0 on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Cam, after Blackburn equalised, obviously knocked the wind out of our sails as supporters watching, whether we were there in the ground or at home or whatever. And it did like 5 times that, the players, because from that moment on, we really struggled to get back into the game. And look, these things happen, but I think the reason it's even more frustrating is Blackburn were no cop themselves. They were giving the ball away left, right and centre. At times, we made their build-up play look like Barcelona. We know how Ismail's going to play. We had to endure, was it quite a season?
Or it was nearly. I think he made it to
nearly a season. And we know, obviously, he had that good spell where, as we've mentioned already, he won at Blackburn, he won at Preston. There was that spell where we thought, could we sneak in? But we know how he's going to play. And I just think that game, we say this a lot, but I think out of all these poor performances we've had, that really was the game where it really was there for the taking. You always think, what if we scored this, or what if we'd put that away? And you think, something could have happened. But that really was that game where I thought we have missed a massive chance here, because there is a reason. Now, I don't like coming on here and slagging off teams too much other than Luton. But there is a reason that they are where they are in that league table, because they really struggled to get momentum going. I've seen on social media, on Twitter, someone posted a screenshot of Todd Cantwell after the game. He said they played well and battled hard, and he was moaning about the pitch. And there were a lot of stray passes yesterday. So whether that's got anything to do with maybe the pitch was a bit bone dry and they've had their problems with the pitch. They've had, I think, 2 postponements for waterlogged pitch in the second tier of English football, which is quite frankly embarrassing. But I just think that it was so, if we'd have even switched on just even 5% more, we'd have had their number. But that's what is so frustrating, isn't it, Cam? Because from that moment on till half time, it was just an absolute calamity.
Yeah, we were second best again. We were lucky to come away with the point. They should have won that game if not for Selvik, and if not for how blunt they are in attack. Really, like you say, we made them look a lot better than they are. And yeah, no disrespect to them, but they know that they're not very good. We know that they're not very good. You can point to all the problems they've got behind the scenes, hence their boycott, and they've also got a shitload of injuries as well. And I'd point to that and say, haven't the fixtures fallen fucking perfectly for Javi? Every single team we play against has a major injury crisis, and we don't win, and we don't even look convincing. It's just absurd. Javi has had no more than maybe 3 or 4 players unavailable at once. I think Blackburn was the worst it's been in terms of our absentees. You know, missing Loser, Pollock. Who else was missing? Anyone else? Is that it?
Loser, Pollock. No, I think that's about it. Yeah,
it's the spine of the team, though. It's just that there are 2 most important players.
But you've got more than enough there to go and beat Blackburn, who are struggling terribly, and you can't even look convincing against them. Blackburn would kill to have this squad, even with the players we've got missing. And I don't mean that as, you know, they're a tiny club and we're so much bigger than them. I don't mean it to gloat in any way, but that is the reality, that we have this incredible squad for the Championship, and a lot of our players, you know, other teams would kill to have them, and yet we can't go and beat Blackburn and Portsmouth, who had to. Portsmouth played, you know, midfielders and fullbacks across their back line when they played us, and we didn't even look close to beating them. It's just not good enough that we look so disjointed when we've got so many talented players in there. It's frustrating more than anything, because I know this team can be so much more than they are, but everyone is playing in a different postcode to each other. There's no one anywhere near our striker. There is no one anywhere near our wingers that they can pass to, that they can, you know, make some kind of passage of play with. The only option is we knock it between our centre-backs for a little bit, and then we kick it up the pitch, and that is all we can do. And yeah, we started well. We went there clearly with a game plan, and Blackburn weren't ready for it. But then they figured it out, and from there, you need to adapt to that. And there is no sense of adaptation from Javi. He is a ponderous manager that just does not know how to react to anything. He's got his game plan, and that game plan worked. What is it, 6 or 7 years ago now? And it's not working now, believe it or not. And it hasn't worked at any club since he left us. I cannot believe he's here. And I said, when I first heard that, you know, Javi might be taking over, I said, why? You know, what does he bring to this squad? He's a 4-4-2 manager historically, and we've got a squad full of talented wingers and number 10s. Where do they fit into a 4-4-2? And that is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing a manager that doesn't know what to do with these players, and we're seeing the same themes that led to him being sacked the last time. Did you all see that that Gino quote that was going around about, he didn't see any value in Deulofeu and Sarr? And, you know, that's fine then, because Sarr was signed for Javi when Gino and co should have known full well that Javi wouldn't want to play Sarr. But then why bring him back when you're just going to have the same problem that you sacked him for? It doesn't make any sense on any planet to me. That
I think
if one of you could offer a counter to that, because I'm lost.
I think the reason they brought him back, Cam, is he was the easy option, and they knew the fans would be on board with it.
Well, yeah, and Duxbury literally said one of the reasons we brought him back is because we know we shouldn't have sacked him the last time, which was 6 years ago. Ridiculous. Over 6 years ago. God, time's flying, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, it's. I just think the problem is you say too much on social media, you just get absolutely hounded. But I don't get how it's not clear for any Watford fan watching us at the moment that it's handbrake football. Look at Ivic. I mean, Ivic, to be fair to him, to
very
give him his
much
credit,
like Ivic.
he set us up defensively for the rest of that season, even after he'd left. Defensively, we were shit up that season. Even when Cisco come in and just sort of was like, fuck it, let's just go for it. Defensively, we kept, we kept that shape and everything else. Yeah. But I just think, considering the squad we've got, a lot of people say, oh, well, we've only lost 2 in 16. Yeah, fair enough. But I tell you why that is. Because the talent alone in this squad has dug us out the shit more than what Javi has done. And look, I love Javi because of what he's done for my football club. That season, that 18-19 season, was one of the best seasons that they've had in my lifetime. And I count that over the season we got promoted in 14-15. The season that we got promoted under Adi Boothroyd, when it was against all odds, and we were tipped for relegation that season, and that was a team of real battlers. That was the best season that I have enjoyed as a Watford fan since I started going. And I went to my first game in 2001. And to be honest, it might be a bit of a doom and gloom way to look at things, but do I think I'll see those sort of times again in my lifetime? I don't know. Probably not. I bloody hope so. I think I'll see us in the Premier League again. Absolutely. But hitting the heights that we did under Javi, probably not. But I just think, look, we tried to go with a manager that we've already been with before in the shape and form of Quique Sanchez Flores. Granted, that is a little bit different because I think we were already done for. So, to be honest, I don't even know why I brought that up. But I think just because we brought him back. But you cannot sit there as a Watford fan, whether you love Javi or you don't, and tell me that he isn't playing with the handbrake on. Because this squad should not be where it is. This squad is one of the... And I know football's not played on paper, but it is one of the most talented squads in this league. There is a reason why countless managers have to play in us. You might have seen this in local news, Joe, because you're in Portsmouth. John Massinio, who, by the way, ever since we've played him again, he seems to get into all sorts of scrapes, whether it be with a player of ours, a manager of ours. He must hate us. He said, I don't see how Watford don't finish outside the top 6 this season. So, he said it. Chris Davis, Birmingham City manager, they beat us. And he said, one of the best teams. I think Chris Wilde has said it. Countless Lampard, yeah. Countless managers. They're not just saying that, like, they're not, it's not like, we've beat, I'll give them a bit of credit, they're a good team. There's a reason they're saying these. Yeah. And this is why it's so frustrating for us Watford fans at the moment. And it's not ignorance. It's just blatantly obvious. The fact that I was saving this stat for shortly when we'll talk about what's coming next. But the bottom 4 so far we've played, out of a possible 18 points of the current bottom 4, we've picked up 7 points. Like, it's nowhere near good enough. We drew with Sheffield Wednesday. We drew with Blackburn. We lost at home to Blackburn. Who's occupying
Drew with Portsmouth twice.
Drew with Portsmouth twice. Oxford, we beat them at home, just scraped through. And I dread to think what will happen when we go to their place, because we just do not play well at places like that. And then you look a little bit further up the table. Yeah, we did the double over Norwich, happy days. We beat West Brom, lost to Charlton, lost to Sheffield United, drew with Swansea, drew with Southampton. Granted, I'm really climbing the table here, but you get the point I'm trying to make. So it's just so frustrating at the moment. And people are like, oh, well, you can't sack Javi. Who are you going to bring in? And you're almost at that point of, and I know we've obviously just got rid of Pezzolano. You're looking at the league, and you're almost looking and you're thinking almost not every one of these managers, because there's some garbage in this league. But let's say if we were to look at the table from mid-table upwards, from 12th upwards, any one of those managers could do a better job at the moment with the squad that we've got. I think that's fair to say. So anyone from QPR up, you know, and it's just so frustrating. I mean, talking of the frustration, let's continue the theme for a little bit, Cam. That first half wasn't complete, you know, without another disaster happening for us. Rocco Batter having to come off 42nd minute. Joe mentioned earlier, Katie said it's not a recurrence of the injury before, it's a new injury, although I don't actually think she said what the injury was. But judging by what I saw on TV, it's got to have been his hamstring. It's got to have been.
It looked like.
Yeah. Played a couple of misplaced passes, did a couple of bits all right as well. He played as you would expect a player who's been out long term and just coming back to play. I think it's fair to say. And then Shaq come on for him in the 42nd minute. I mean, that whole thing around it. Look, Ben obviously can't be with us tonight, and he made a few points ahead of this, and he wanted us to point out that as frustrating as the Vata situation is, especially, you know, given the circumstances, he says, but the medical team and the player would have signed him off as fit, which made him available selection. But what's your whole take on that? Because for me, I understand you want your best players to play in your team. That is the whole point of football. Fitting them in, you might have multiple good players, fitting them in. That's why the managers get paid big bucks. But you're not telling me that if he was only going to get 45 minutes, which is so easy to say now, but you're not telling me that he couldn't have started Bar, he couldn't have started Iran Kunda, and then brought him on for 45 minutes. Like, why is he having to start him? He come on. It was an absolute shock that he was even on the bench the other night. Was it Portsmouth game? He come back in the squad.
Yeah.
When that team come out, and I saw Vatter's name, I almost had to double take, and I was like, I'm sure he's meant to be out for a while longer yet. And then he was preferred over the likes of Bar, Iran Kunda. So, yeah, what did you make of the whole Vatter situation? I think we've got to cover it.
Yeah, look, I'll take you back to Bristol City away last season under Tom Cleverley. That game was our last chance to make something of ourselves that season, and Cleverley had the big decision: do you play Kwadwo Bar in his first game back from injury? Bear in mind, he would be our only chance of getting something out of that. Or do you not play him, and it's probably season over? And he chose to play him, and for that short 15 minutes, we battered Bristol City, and you know, it looked like we could do something. And then he went off injured. He aggravated the same injury, and that is the kind of scenario where you take that risk. Now, your season is not going to be decided away at Blackburn in January. There was no pressure to bring him back. And then factor in that you have got Tom Ince, who I wouldn't have played, but Othman Marma, Iran Kunda, Bar, and Chakvatadze. And even if you need to, you could stick Dumbia or Patrice out there, as you know, we've seen in the past. You've got so many options you could put out there, and you choose to start a guy who was supposed to be out for 4 months. He was told 4 months, and he came back after 2. And like you said, it was a complete shock to see him in the squad against Portsmouth. Never mind coming on ahead of Bar and Iran Kunda. Complete shock. And then to start him is just absurd to me. You know, what pressure is there? Who was saying we are crying out for Rocco Vatta? Don't get me wrong, really good player, good to have him. But were we crying out for him? Can we go on without him? Absolutely, we can. Yeah, it really baffling. And when a player's not played for a while, they're always going to be more susceptible to a muscle injury. He obviously wasn't as sharp as he might want to be. Hence, you know, he didn't play all that well. He didn't quite look himself. And yeah, that all of that factors into why he's been injured again and why he's going to be out for a long while. And I think he should be really fuming with his manager. I think he's been thoroughly let down there. Yeah, you know, medical team might have passed him as fit, but just use your brain. I think you've got to take some initiative and say, well, yeah, he might be fit, but I'll just ease him back in, give him maybe 20 minutes at the end, rather than starting him with the plan to take him off after 45 minutes. It doesn't make any sense. I cannot make heads or tails of it, and I think all the people out there defending it are just sort of blinded by what Javi's done for us in the past, and he seems sort of immune to criticism sometimes when it's blatantly a situation that he should have handled much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, fast forwarding now to the second half, as I mentioned, Czak's a man that come on for him, and talking to players that have recently come back from injury. He was brought off on Wednesday, a tactical decision. Not really sure what happened there. You could argue, okay, Dumbia have come on and he got the goal, but if Czak was in that position, would he have scored? What have you made of him since he's come back? Because obviously we all know him as an exciting player. I just don't quite think, and look, this might be a bit harsh for me because he is coming back, and maybe it's a bit too soon to judge him because it was quite a serious injury and he was out for a while. He's taking his time to find his feet, I think. And I think yesterday sort of showed that. I counted 2 or maybe 3 at a push where he should have scored, to be quite frank. And he should have done a lot better than he did. So what are you making of Czak since he's come back?
I personally think he's done okay. He's a player that regularly comes up in another chat. I mean, with a couple of friends, and we've all got a difference of opinion on Czak. It's quite the topic at times, and it was again the other day. And me and the guy I go with, we both said, and we say this quite a lot, is that I believe that Czak needs to learn to be able to adapt his game. I don't think you'll see too many times him try anything different in the game other than he runs to the byline, runs down the byline, gets to the edge of the box, and he tries a chipped cross, and the keeper gathers it every single time. Like, when do you ever see Czak try and cut inside and just smash it across the floor? Those ones that we see quite a lot of good wingers do. Cut inside, just smash a ball across. Bit of pinball, and then it may fall to someone. It may go in off a defender's leg, or a striker may get a foot on it. Whatever. He never tries that. He never tries to cut inside and try and whip a ball in. It's always the same chipped effort towards the back post, and it never does anything. And for me, I just think that everyone says Czak's worth a lot of money. Yes, he probably is. He'd probably be worth about another 10, 15 more million, because he'd be a much better player if he just learnt to do things differently. I do think since he's come back from injury, I thought in the first maybe 7 games potentially, I think he did very well. I was quite surprised at how well he was doing. But I think because he's had quite a lot of game time in a short space of time, I do think he's looked more tired at times. But he just needs to learn to be able to shoot as well. I think that's a frustrating thing. I did touch earlier on the fact that in one of the home games, again, I can't remember which one it was. I do believe it was potentially the Portsmouth one. Within the first maybe 15 minutes, he had a shot, and it was just deflected off someone's foot, and it just went round the post. But that's what happens when you shoot. He doesn't shoot enough. What was the game where he had the shot where it hit the top of was it Norwich away? He had the shot from 25 yards, curling effort, top of the net. I think it was in, if he did that more, you'd probably see him score a few more goals because he'd be a bit more confident. He lacks confidence as a player. He can certainly beat a player. There's no problems with that. I think at Millwall last week, I remember he beat quite a few players, and he got towards the edge of the box. Didn't really know what to do with it. He didn't pull the trigger, and I think he got tackled by the last man. So there's just things that he just needs to work on to make himself a better player. I don't think necessarily he's been... Cam, do you think he's been played in the right position the last like few games, I don't really like him in that position. I much prefer him out wide, but I think Javi to get him in the side has been playing him in this number 10 position, but I don't think it quite works for him there, does it?
I think it's more a case of there isn't a position that Javi hasn't played him in yet. He seems to be changing position every 20 minutes. It can't be good for him. He started the Millwall and Portsmouth games playing as a striker alongside Kiramgo. Didn't work. Then he got shoved out wide. Didn't work. And he scarcely plays in that number 10 role. I think he needs to be there more, in my opinion. I think that's where you get the best out of him, really. I don't like it when he's out wide and he's getting the ball on the byline, because that's not the kind of player that he is. He needs to be in the middle, and he needs to be, dropping in to collect the ball and carrying it forward. And where he's being played, he's just not allowed to do that. It's not good for him that he keeps, every 20 minutes he's moving to the other side of the pitch or whatever. It's I think that's why he looks quite lost most of the time, to be honest.
I think, sorry, Mike, just one other thing on that is you mentioned obviously a tactical decision. It was because Javi wanted to change the shape on Wednesday. Obviously, we came out, it either went to a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. And the way that Javi was playing with Chak in the first half, it wasn't working. And what he wanted to do in the second half with the formation, it didn't fit Chak in, which was why he took Chak off and he went a different formation. But, just on him and different formations, Bristol City, why when you, and this is, I think, it doesn't stem from this. I don't blame him for doing this because we knew that he would make changes. Was it the right decision with Hull? If the whole game goes ahead, people don't probably question it. We potentially get a decent result at Hull and maybe things carry on. I do think that's kind of, for some reason, it's had for whatever reason, a knock-on effect. But he started with a 3-5-2 at that Bristol City game, which was the shape. My friend who went, he said quite early on in the game, I don't know why Javi's doing this, because for the last 6 weeks previous, all right, it took its time to get there, but Javi went to a 4-4-2 and it was working. Like, it was working. We were getting the wins. We were doing well. Why do you then, when you've worked on something for such a long period of time to get it to where you want it to be, do you then go and change it, regardless if it's because you've made changes to the team? You keep the same formation because that's what the players have been working on in training. And obviously, we completely changed shape. We went to the 3-5-2 where it hadn't been working previously, and we knew it wasn't working previously, and it slipped back into the previous ways that it was before things became good. And just since then, there hasn't been the confidence, there hasn't been the tenacity and desire that we've seen from the games prior to that. And yeah, he just needs to try and somehow get it back to that, I think.
Yeah, I think, look, we haven't done a podcast since the news about that postponement at Hull. So I will just quickly say, I think we missed a massive opportunity against Bristol City to go out there with our full-strength team, same formation, same team we've been playing, and just carry the momentum on. And look, you could argue more games. When you're trying to get promoted, the last thing you want is more games. But at the end of the day, it would have got us through to the next round of the FA Cup, would have got us a little bit more cash. I know it doesn't always work as whoever the opponent that beats you gets in the next round, you'd get because of ball numbers and whatnot. But I think Bristol City got Port Vale in the next round, I think. So, could have got another easy draw. Next thing you know, a bit like in 18-19, you win 2 or 3 because you find yourself on a nice side of the draw and you're suddenly thinking, oh, okay, we've got a bit of a cup run on our hands. But look, that's all ifs and buts and pots and pans now because it didn't turn out that way. But yeah, it is frustrating and a little bit like Vata. And we've seen exactly what Cam said. Bristol City last season, Bar was risked. He needed to be because of the stage of the season. Vata doesn't need to be, and especially because we've got surplus players in that position that could do just as good a job. And I think maybe, Georgie, we don't need to be so dependent on him. I'm thinking of people behind the scenes sort of shitting it a bit and thinking, fucking hell, we need to get Georgie in that squad. I don't care how you do it, just crowbar him in. So yeah, it is frustrating. Look, you mentioned when he first come back. I think his first game back in the squad was Birmingham away, that me and Cam were at, and he was that breath of fresh air. You're sort of like, oh, we've missed this, because we were really struggling to create something. And I don't think he got the direct assist, but he was definitely in the build-up towards the goal in the Birmingham game.
Yeah.
I think he played it to Bolla, and then was it Bolla squared it to Mama? I don't know. But he was definitely in the build-up. So, yeah, look, maybe he's that tactical change, like you say, it was a change of shape, but maybe manage his minutes a little bit better and potentially... I don't know if I'd give him a rest because he is an important player, but I think, like you've said, he needs to add goals to his game. Cleverly said that loads last season. And will that only come with more game time? Who knows? Just a couple more bits in regards to this game, because I'm a bit wary of time, but the subs in the second half were particularly frustrating, Cam, because we saw Iran Kunda come on for Mama in the 64th minute, and granted, Mama wasn't having the best of games. Gareth said earlier he doesn't track back and everything else. And a lot of what he was trying wasn't coming off. And he was beating his man. But I think Cashin sort of grew into the game a little bit more and had his number. And he was getting frustrated, Mama was. And, he was going to talk himself into the referee's notebook, even though the referee was... I don't know if you guys saw it on TV, but he definitely had a yellow shirt on under his kit. My word, it was one-sided. But Iran Kunda coming on meant that Iran Kunda was out wide. Now, to me, his best position is you play him as close to the striker as you can, because weirdly, he's the only guy on that team, albeit probably the smallest, that can actually jump up and win a header. And you can play him off Kerem Gard as well. And that's what Kerem Gard's game is. You play off him. And he comes in, he links the play up. So you got someone like a pocket rocket like Nestoria and Kunda, who's got a bomb on. We saw it earlier in the season. I think Pep Solano used to play them up top together, and it worked. So Iran Kunda was wasted out wide. He didn't really get a look in. And then the chanting on the TV was so loud. Kwadwo Bar's name was being sung pretty much right from when Iran Kunda come on to when he did come on, but he come on with 5 minutes to spare, and again, no time to get involved in the game whatsoever. And to be honest, he come on for Kerem Gard, but I don't think there was as much as a plan. I think at that point, Javi's probably like, just go up and just attack. Like, I couldn't tell whether Bar was playing as a striker, whether Dumbia was, and Bar was in the 10, whether Iran Kunda was, like, it was so hard, and I don't know if there was an actual plan, but very, very, and not for the first time recently, Cam, frustrating substitutes again so late on.
Yeah, I've seen his excuse for not getting Bar on early as well. It's just ridiculous, like the level of excuses that he's going to
what was
try
and
cover up his ineptitude. It's he said he didn't want to bring Bar on early because he wanted to see if Abankwah and Ngakia could play the full 90, because then if he brings on Bar early, he doesn't have enough sub windows left, because he'd brought on who was it? Was it Chak in the first half? And he brought on Iran Kunda early in the second half, and then he's only got one sub window left. So if someone sort of gets injured, then we're down to 10 if we bring Bar on early. So yeah, if that makes sense. But why don't you bring on Bar when you bring on Iran Kunda? If you want Bar on that pitch, he will be on that pitch, and he should be. It's a classic case of him not understanding the players that he's got when he's put Iran Kunda out on the right. He's best, as you said, when he's close to the striker and when he's allowed to sort of use his pace to break through midfield. We don't see anything close to that from him when he plays out wide. So why put him there? It's a complete misunderstanding from Javi. And you've got Kwadwo Bar, who is perfectly suited to that right wing role. Bit of a tongue twister. And he's not playing him. It's ridiculous. If I was Bar, I would be handing in a transfer request because
I agree.
It's ridiculous the way that he's being managed. I don't understand it at all.
Apparently, yesterday, I didn't see it because when you watch on TV, I mean, one thing I will say is whoever's hired to do the camera work, they don't half know when to not play a replay.
Yeah.
Half that time, you're watching replays of something and you're like, hang on, there's a game going on here. Yeah. I don't care about the bloke eating a pie and picking his nose in the stand. Like, just play the game. So apparently, Kwadwo Bar, when that injury happened to Vata, I think it was, and he found out Georgie was going on, he stormed down the tunnel because I think he'd sort of had his kit on ready because he went and I think as soon as he went down, you saw the camera pan to Javi, and 3 of them went off the bench to go and warm up. So he's not very happy, and he probably thought when Pezzolano went, those days were gone, and Javi's coming, and it's deja vu for poor KB. So it's so frustrating, and handbrake football, as I say. But just looking ahead and sort of just to round up on tonight's podcast, because it's been a bit of a longer one because I'm on. That's what happens, unfortunately. Swansea up next. Now, I'm going to jinx it because why not? I mean, we'll probably go and put in a crap performance anyway. Swansea, who have the 3rd joint worst away record in the league, they've picked up 11 points on the road from just 14 games. So we all know what's going to happen. But, Joe, we'll come to you first. We're at home. Remember when saying you're at home used to mean something? But are you actually feeling confident for that one? Do you think this is just a blip we're going through? And my word, one hell of a blip it is. Are you thinking, right, Swansea at home? Are we at that stage? Are we almost at that stage where it's like, right, this is make or break now. We need to do this. Otherwise, the gap's going to start getting bigger. What are you thinking for Swansea?
Oh, well, based on what I said to you yesterday with the games coming up in February, I feel, for me, that it's now a must-win. It's a must-win. If we don't win, I don't believe we're going to be anywhere near the playoffs at the end of the season. People may think we're only 1 or 2 points off. Still, fine, whatever. So what? If we can't beat Portsmouth, Blackburn, Swansea in succession, then you don't deserve to go up. I mean, they're poor teams, as Cam said. There was multiple people out of Portsmouth. Blackburn are a terrible, terrible, terrible team. How we've only picked up 1 out of 6 points from them this season, I'll never know. And Swansea are a poor side as well. I mean, apparently they had a really good second half at Hull yesterday, but you see this how many times? Like, teams will go 2-0 down and they'll have great second halves because they're chasing a game. The other team take their foot off the gas. You expect that bit of pressure to be applied. But if we don't beat Swansea, for me, then with Hull, Southampton, Preston, Ipswich, Derby, then Ipswich coming up, and then Bristol City at the end of the month. It's looking. It could look pretty bleak for Watford and Javi Gracia, but he just needs. For me, the substitutions are the problem for him. He needs to. The substitutions need to be better in games now, and if he gets that right, then we could see a win next week. But God forbid if Pollock starts, I do not want to see Kevin Caben come on at right back again like that. Because we've not done a podcast, we've kind of brushed over that. But that for me is probably one of the worst subs of the season for me. I mean, I can't hammer him because, like Mendy, it's not his rightful position. so you can't expect him to play there. But if you're, with that one as well, he said that he brought Ngakia off because Ngakia couldn't play a full 90. And if that's the case, then you put Patrice on the bench. So you've got a right back that comes on as cover. Or do you know what? It may not be what he wants, but put Bar there. At least it's someone that's got a bit of pace and can play out wide, rather than putting someone who's got two left feet like in a right back position. It was just appalling. But yeah, for me, Swansea next week, it's a must-win game. I do think if he plays the right team and gets the subs right, we can win it. But who knows with what's been going on the last few games.
Yeah, I tell you what worries me, and Cam, you're probably thinking the same. Although, according to Flash Score, he had an absolute stinker yesterday, so that probably means he's due on Saturday. Is Vopotnik. He's in red hot form at the moment. I think, actually, if I'm not mistaken, he might be the top scorer in the whole of the championship.
I think he is. Yeah,
he is. Yeah, he is. And then it's Clark, Armstrong, Whittaker, and McBurney all tied on 11. So that's what worries me. 13, and I don't think any of them are penalties as well. By the way,
yeah, got one against us, didn't he? Really good header.
Yeah, he peeled away from his man.
Yeah,
it's poor defending. It was.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are you thinking for Swansea? In fact, what changes would you make? Wholesale, probably.
Well, Bar and Irankunda would both be starting. We don't know what's going on with Loser. I'd hope to see him back, but we haven't heard anything. Same with Pollock, really. But you don't need to change too much personnel-wise. You just need to play the players that are fit and put them in a system that works. There's not a lot of pressure on Javi. It's not a hard job that he's got. He just needs to put this team out with a coherent plan that will work, and he's not doing that. And we all know how the Swansea game is going to go, partly because Swansea always seem to beat us at the Vic lately, but also because we're just on this trajectory now. We know how it's going to go. We know how we're going to play. We're not going to be able to break them down. We're going to see long balls up to Kieran go. We're going to see our wingers both just on the touchline on their own. We're going to see terrible football, and we're going to see Sam Vopotnik score, obviously. But it's just so depressing that you know how it's going to be before a ball has been kicked. It was like that for Portsmouth. I said exactly how that was going to go. And it was the same for Blackburn. I said exactly how that was going to go because it is so predictable. And to all the people that are saying, oh, we've only lost 2 in 16, that's great. Why do we have to wait for it to be, 3 in 17, 4 in 18, and so on? Is it still going to be 2 losses after we probably don't beat Swansea and then we've got 3 away games in a row? No, it's not.
3 losses then.
It's going to be a lot more than that, I think. It's just, why do we have to wait for things to go horribly wrong when you can see that it's not working? Why do you have to wait for the losses to come in to be able to make a proactive decision? And that's something I hope is on Gino's mind, because this is going to sound mental, but he's not proactive when it comes to the manager role. He waits for results to go bad before he sacks them rather than seeing the signs. I'll point to QSF mainly on that one. The second time, he was obviously the wrong man for the job, and he just waited too long, and he waits too long sometimes. And the reality is, the sackings, there's some you'll always disagree with, but it's rarely the sacking that's the issue. It's the appointment that is the issue. And that's what it's been again here. Javi was the wrong appointment, and he's getting it horribly wrong. And we're not going to go anywhere under him, I'm afraid. And, I more than anything, I'd want us to go back to the days last time Javi was here. That was early days of my Watford supporting career. And I'd just love to go back to those days. But Javi isn't the man to take us there anymore. He was back then, but it's been a long time now. Things move on, and the owners don't move on. They keep going back, and that's the problem. And yeah, like Melanie said here, you'll always get people saying, "What would you do? Who would you go for?" I would like to just see them think about who they're going to appoint. That's what I want. They didn't think about Pezzolano. They just looked at his CV and said, "Oh, he's done well at a few clubs. Let's bring him in." They didn't look at Javi and go, "Oh, Javi, we've got loads of wingers here. We've got really good players. Javi is going to suit this squad down to the ground." There wasn't any kind of process. They didn't weigh up any other candidates. They just said, "We've got Javi's number. He'll make people happy. Bring him in." There's never a thought process. No other championship team would have appointed, Valerian Ismail when we did, Tom Cleverley when we did, Pezzolano, and now Javi. No other championship team in their right mind would do that, and yet we did. And that is the only reason I would not sack Javi, is because we'll just go and do it again. We'll go and appoint either a no mark or a past it manager, or just someone with nothing to them. We're in this cycle, and people need to understand the problem is not that we sack managers. The problem is that we appoint shit ones, and that's my rant over. Really, I really want people to understand that.
No, don't think I need to add any more, to be honest. Just quickly to round up, I think I'll get lambasted if I don't touch on it. So the reason I haven't talked about it is I don't think there's much to it other than the fact of what Watford put out is probably true. He's played a lot of games recently. It's probably due a rest. Loser out for the Blackburn game. All of this nonsense about, we've accepted a bid. What a load of bollocks that is.
Yeah.
You both in agreement, yeah?
Yeah.
Nothing more than that, yeah.
No.
Cam, come to you first. Score prediction, Mr. Positive, please, on Saturday.
I think probably 2-1 loss.
Okay, Joe?
I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory. Just really quickly, I don't know just boys, if you've seen, but I've seen a few tweets, but I can't find it now. So I don't know if they've been removed or they were all yesterday, and I'm just really behind on the time of when they were posted. But there was, it seems almost certain that we're signing the centre back from Udinese.
Really?
The Georgian guy,
the one that's been kept out of the team by Christian Kabasele. Our fans will love that.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, that does sound good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying that it's highly likely because they want to bring him over because of Georgie. So, yeah.
Who's reported that tonight that you've seen?
It's not tonight. It was yesterday. I saw it somewhere. I can't even find it because I wanted to say his name, but I just saw that there was a Georgian centre back from Udinese. There was rumours that Roma and AC Milan both wanted him, but the club don't want to sell him just yet. They wanted to sell him. They wanted to send him on loan to Watford for the rest of the season, and then look to sell him in the summer. But I can't find the name or who it was that posted it.
I've got the name here. I don't know why I'm going to do this to myself.
This will look good on the subtitles.
Yeah. Get ready for these subtitles, Jess. It's Saba Goglichidze. I think that's all right.
I think you've done well.
Yeah. 21 years old. They're signing from Empoli. Don't know, however you want to pronounce that. And then he played for a team. What a name this is. Torpedo Kutsayi. No idea where they're from. Empoli signing for 450 grand. And then in 2025, Udinese signing from Empoli for €4 million. He's played 7 games for Udinese so far. He was on the bench in the last game against Inter Milan. The last time he played he come on for 1 minute in the 1-0 win against Napoli. He's played for Georgia. He played in the last round of international. They lost 4-0 to Spain. He played half a game for that. And then before that, his last full 90 for Udinese was in a 3-1 loss to Juventus. So, he's not completely frozen out. He has played bits and pieces, but yeah, it gets bodies in. No doubt he'll be written off before he's kicked the ball, as most players are. James Abankwah was the worst one for that. Like, he got an absolute slaughtering. But yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
I am gonna go with. Do you know what? Let's be positive. I'm gonna go with a 1-0 win. I don't think the performance is going to be all that great, but I think we due one of those where it scrapes off someone's arse in the last minute and we get the 3 points, and hopefully we can kick on a bit then, because as Joe said, the run coming up after that's a bit eye-watering, and I'm a little bit worried now. Like, if we're still talking about playoffs, you look below us, you've got QPR in 12th place on 40 points, and then Birmingham just below them on 39. So that gap is sort of getting tighter. And then the gap between Wrexham in 6th and Millwall in 5th is 5 points. So we really need to start kicking it up a bit. So, but yes, thank you for tonight, gentlemen. Apologies, it's been a little bit of a longer episode. I think a good indication to me that we've been going on so long is that I've actually sent my cat to sleep to the point where she's snoring her head off. So if that doesn't tell me I've been talking too long, I don't know what is. Great news to end it on. Jesse's worried that Sissoko's going to be leaving, which is absolutely brilliant if that is the case. That's the one positive that's coming out of things at the moment, is that
he'll be back in the dugout before long.
Squad. So, yeah. Thank you all so much for commenting tonight and watching along. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button at the bottom. If you haven't already as well, please do consider hitting subscribe. The subscribes mean more than you think, and help us out behind the scenes as well. So that'd be brilliant. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you on the next one. I think Ben said that he's going to the Swansea game, so there'll be a Swansea review. And just to apologise on behalf of Voices of the Vic, not only for them letting me host a podcast again, but just the lack of content that's been coming out recently. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes, etc., which means we haven't been able to put out sort of regular content. So hopefully that stops, and there'll be maybe some new faces in a few weeks. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe said too much there, but yeah. Thanks for watching, and until next time, come on, you Orns.